Tammy Miller is an executive board member at Help for HD International, and she's going to be doing this interview today.
And this is going to be a treat to do. BJ, it's great having you with us today. You have been such a strong supporter and advocate and just overall so involved in our community. And I appreciate you're here again with more to share, more to help us with. And the questions we're going to have today will be both on GeneCo and Prevent HD. And so I'll start with, what is GeneCo?
Yeah, Tammy, thanks for having me. Pleasure as always. I have one quick story. I got my package in the mail yesterday, and we weren't sure if it was a cookie or a bar of soap. And I told my daughter it was a cookie, but I hoped it was a bar of soap. She was lucky to find out it was a Help for HD cookie. But thanks for the Help for HD package. That was enjoyable last night. Okay, back to your question. Where do we begin? Question number one: what is GeneCo? HD GeneCo is a project I've been working on for a handful of years, but essentially it's an early stage company that's working to bring a better alternative for genetic testing and counseling to those in the U.S. who are currently at risk for HD. Our mission, beyond just providing a really good genetic testing and counseling service, is to empower people with whatever result they might get. So if they're positive or if they're negative, we want to help connect them to what they're needed next in their journey. If that's resources like advocacy organizations, getting them connected to events like this, if it's getting them connected to centers of excellence that are nearest to them, or if it's making sure they're aware of all the clinical trial that are going on that they might qualify for. Each individual has a different journey and a different situation, but we really want to bring people through the HD door when they decide to get genetic tested, and then make sure they leave knowing where to go next and holding their hand to make sure they can do it. I will say HD GeneCo currently is not operating. We've had a few setbacks, although still a lot of positive momentum. We hope to be offering services sometime this summer. If you want to just stay up to date, you can go to hdgeneco.com and throw your email in, and we'll send out some emails as we get closer to that date of starting to offer services. You know, Tammy, you mentioned I've been in this community now. It's 25 years since my mom was first diagnosed with HD, and I've worn many hats, from being a grassroots fundraiser to an advocate to starting the Huntington's Disease Youth Organization with friends to being in the pharmaceutical space. And really where HD GeneCo is combining is just all my professional hats that I've worn and talking to thousands of HD families and realizing that this is just another option that needs to be available. And there's so much we can do with information that people provide through genetic testing. So I'm super excited. This is truly a professional passion project of mine. I have a handful of expert advisors who are providing their expertise and their time and their energy to help this get off the ground. So hopefully more to come, but I know we have 9 more questions, but that we can dive into.
We do, but fantastic. Something very exciting for us all to be looking forward to, because those connections matter. So how much will it cost to test from home?
Yeah, and I didn't even say that in my what is HD GeneCo, but essentially what HD GeneCo is, the alternative option that we'll offer is to provide expert genetic testing and counseling with an expert licensed genetic counselor or educator anywhere from your home in the United States. But that service in total cost, which includes the test that will be mailed to your house, that's a spit kit that you can spit in, along with multiple genetic testing education sessions, will cost $500. A couple things that I just want to say about that is this is meant to be a cash or a credit card pay. We won't accept insurance up front. If you want to try to get reimbursement from your insurance company, we'll work with you to see if that's an option. But I also just want to say if $500 is an issue for anyone in the future when we're open, don't let that be a barrier to reach out for us. We are trying to work through making sure there's coupons available to make sure that anyone who needs this test gets this test through the HD GeneCo platform.
All right. So how many genetic counselor sessions would someone have to complete prior to testing?
Yeah, so we'll have a standard process, but we know everyone's an individual and every individual situation is different. And that's how we're going to look at everyone who comes to HD GeneCo. But the typical standard process that we'll be providing to folks is they'll have an introductory call that could be with a genetic counselor. It could just be with myself or one of our other team members who will walk them through the genetic testing process. And Dr. Sung talked a lot about this in the opening session, is just the generals, what this is, what this isn't, what the process looks like, helping the person be informed to make sure they want to move forward. If they do move forward, they'll have, let's say in general, an hour session with our licensed genetic counselor. If both the individual and the counselor think that this is something they want to pursue, they'll get a kit in the mail to spit in. And then within a few weeks or a few months or whenever the right time is, they'll have the results session with the genetic counselor, which again, it will vary upon individual. It can be an hour, it might be 10 minutes, it could be 2 hours. That will be the general flow that we will follow. And then the other thing that HG Gene Co will have that's very important is we won't just say goodbye, here's your results and have a great day. But we do hope to have a plan in place to continue to reach out to that individual and to continue to make sure that they get connected to the right services.
I could say just hearing that it will be a spit test. I already know some people who definitely prefer that over the blood test. So that's good to hear. How long will it take to get results back from the testing?
Yeah, so results to get back, let's say you spit in the cup and you mail it in using FedEx or UPS. From about that time, it'll take about 2 weeks for HG Gene Co to get your results back. And then based on everyone's situation, we'll set up that results phone call based on that individual's needs and wants. It could be right at that 2-week mark. There's always stuff that comes up. Maybe it's a big day at work, maybe it's your birthday, maybe it's holidays. So we don't just want to say, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going to have an appointment. We're going to make sure that it's the right time for you, the right time for you to be in the right place mentally and physically to get that result. But in general, I know that's a very anxious time. You spit in this cup and your results are out there and you're anxious. You've been waiting for this for years. So if people do feel like they're prepared and we feel that you're prepared to know those results, we hope to be able to provide them in about a 2-week time frame.
Terrific. Can you test anonymously through that?
Yeah, so that's one of HG Gene Co's big hopes, is to offer anonymous testing as easy as possible to anyone. And that's one of the main reasons that we won't be taking insurance, is because when you start taking insurance, it becomes really hard to make this an anonymous process. So we will have all plans in place for, I got a chuckle when Dr. Sung said if people wanted to bring cash. But if that's what you want to do, because you don't even want it on your credit card statement, we'll find a way to take cash or take money orders or send us your pennies. But we'll also just make sure that what you want anonymous to be, we'll cater to that, because being anonymous differs to everybody. And some people just don't want their employer to know. Some people don't want their insurance to know. Some people don't want their friends and family to know. So when you ask, are we going to make it anonymous? Yes, but that's going to depend on every individual too, of what their hopes and dreams are for this process.
Sure, but it's nice to have those options out there, and it sounds like you're doing it on a more personalized basis, one-to-one. Okay.
Correct.
So how long would it, okay, so you talked about the test would take about 2 weeks. How does that testing time frame compare to if you do an in-clinic test?
Yeah, so if you could go to one of the, I think it's 56 HDSA centers of excellence, or there's a handful of other clinics that would call themselves an HD center. It varies. It varies from the time you call to make an appointment. Maybe that you can't get your appointment for 6 weeks or 6 months. And then some of these clinics make you come in person, some don't. So it's a huge, I have a hard time saying our process is 2 weeks and their process, if you go a different route, is much longer, because I don't think speed is necessarily the best thing you should be comparing. So I'm not trying to also say that you should come to HG Gene Co and not go to a center. Some people might need time from the process to start till the process ends. What we're offering, I believe, is just an alternative to maybe not have to travel to a center if the center doesn't offer virtual genetic testing. There are a lot of variables from center to center, and that's just if it's cost, if it's time, if it's the team you're seeing. And just one thing that HG Gene Co is striving to do is just standardize this genetic testing and counseling process a little bit more for anyone in the US. So whether you're calling from Alaska or you're calling from Florida, essentially this testing process, that's all similar in our brains. If we've been at risk for HD, the process should be a little bit more standardized. So we hope to bring that to the community soon.
Terrific. And that, to me, I would see as one of the advantages of your system. Can you maybe share or just detail it out for us, what do you see as the benefits of doing the at-home testing?
Yeah, going through HEGeneco is one option. Again, some centers of excellence are offering this now. COVID obviously made us all realize that, hey, this virtual model actually works and people are okay with getting care virtually. But going through HEGeneco at-home test, to me, I just think the biggest benefit is you can do it from the most comfortable place in your home or the comfortable place on earth. I would rather receive results on my couch where I can digest it. And if it's whatever news it is, I can walk to the freezer and grab some cookies or ice cream and just make myself feel better if that's what it is. Versus sometimes getting those results in a center, you may feel the love from the team. They might get to give you a hug and that feels nice, but then you got to get in your car and potentially drive an hour or 2 hours home. And to me, I think there's just huge benefit of being in your happy place. And that's what we hope to, again, be able to bring soon.
What do you feel would be the disadvantages of at-home testing for people to consider?
Yeah, I'm a little biased. I don't think there are many disadvantages if this is the route you want to take. I think that the thing I hope people consider is, do you want the full team that an HD center can provide? And again, Dr. Sun mentioned this when somebody asked, is it worth driving 6 hours to an HD center? I was on my computer saying, yes, drive the 6 hours, because some people, they want to see a genetic counselor, they want to talk to the neurologist, they want to see the social worker, they want to talk to psychologists. And that's what an HD center will be able to offer. Now, I also believe that some people don't need that and they don't want that. And HEGeneco will provide you a genetic counselor to speak with at the start, but we won't have that team. So I think that could be one disadvantage. But again, it's all personal preference based on what people want. And this is just another option.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about Prevent HD. So can you tell us what is Prevent HD?
Yeah, it sounds great. So I will just say, as I mentioned, I've been an advocate in the HD community. So this is a totally different hat. This is BJ's taking off his HEGeneco hat and putting it over here. And now I'm grabbing my Prevent hat, which is over here, and I'm putting it on. But Prevent HD it's an observational research study to help develop and refine tools that can be used in clinical trials to measure the effectiveness of treatments before the disease impacts daily life. And essentially, a quick high-level thought, and Dr. Anderson got this question too earlier, it was like, why can't people who don't yet have symptoms participate in clinical trials? And I think you could say clearly that Prevent HD is trying to solve that problem. But for treatments in the HD community that we have, you think of Zeto or Xenazine for movements, you could walk into a clinical trial and a doctor could see your movements and he could say, okay, I'm going to rate you a 10, and now I'm going to give you a pill, and come back in a couple of weeks and are your movements more or less? It's very easy to compare. But if you don't have symptoms for HD, how do we know if this pill we gave you is working? And right now, I think we have some ideas of what we could measure inside the body to figure out, hey, is this working? Is it not working? But they aren't validated enough where authoritative bodies like the FDA and the EMA are saying, yes, that can move forward to a pharmaceutical company. Prevent is a study. You don't get any medicine, but it's observing you as a human being. It puts you in the MRI machine. You get a lumbar puncture to take out some fluid. And these are measures that we feel like we may be able to use someday to help measure if a treatment you're given is actually working inside the body. So you can take this pill or whatever it might be before your symptoms ever begin.
So can really everybody participate?
Not everybody can participate. I would say if you want to know if you can participate, you can answer these 3 questions yourself. 1, you have to have undergone genetic testing. Your result doesn't matter. You can be positive or you can be negative. You have to live in the United States. And you have to be willing and able to travel to Madison, Wisconsin, because that's the only study site. But on top of that, if you really want to know if you qualify, you should go to the Prevent HD website, reach out to their team. There's also a Prevent HD Facebook page, and just reach out to them to make sure that you do qualify for the study.
If I do qualify for this study, am I expected to be at the study site for multiple days, one day? How does that work?
Yeah, I'll give you my personal experience. I'm a Prevent HD participant. And I'll also say Prevent HD, it was formerly Predict HD. So for those of you who ever went to a Predict site, it's essentially the same trial. It just had to get a new name and it's changed a little bit. But when you hear Prevent, you can kind of predict. So if you've heard of that in the HD community before, it's very similar. But a typical visit is about a day and a half. I live in Charlotte and I flew up to Madison in November. I left at 5 a.m., went to the airport, got on an airplane, flew to Madison. I got in at about 10 a.m., so it was about 5 hours of travel. I went through probably about 6 hours of general tests and walking from one room to the other. It included an MRI. That night, I had to fast because the next day I had a lumbar puncture in the morning. I did a few more tests, and I was out the door at Madison around noon. I got back on a plane and I got home that following night. So all in, I left on a Monday morning and I got back home on a Tuesday night. It can be longer. It can probably be maybe a little bit shorter, but in general, I would dedicate about 2 days of your life to Madison.
Is the study completely paid for, or will I perhaps incur expenses if I participate?
Yeah, it's paid for. The Prevent team will work with you to, find a flight. If you're coming from long distance, they'll put you up in a hotel. If you're driving, they'll reimburse you for your mileage. If you have other costs that you incur, maybe it's mileage to the airport, maybe it's parking at the airport, just reach out to the Prevent team and they can help get you reimbursed for those expenses. Financially, there shouldn't be any financial barriers to you if you want to participate, but every individual situation is different, so you just have to ask the Prevent team. And then there is a stipend. It's very small for the time and energy you give. I think it's about $150 in total for your 2-day visit, but they do compensate, which just helps with maybe you have to get a dog sitter or some extra daycare or something along those lines.
Given there's going to be a spinal tap involved, is there a plan that's put into place if for some reason I experience pain or have an adverse reaction to the procedure?
Yeah, spinal taps, lumbar punctures, everyone has their own perception of them. Personally, I've had an okay experience with spinal taps and haven't heard of anything negative happening with friends who have participated in the Prevent study thus far. But if you're on site and you have a negative reaction, you are in a top medical institution at the University of Madison Hospital. So you have great care who's watching over you as it's happening. And they make you sit there for an hour and drink and eat until they let you free and go home. And then they do have protocols and a process in place if you do get home and something happens. So you can work with their team and they're there to help you along the way.
Great. Do I need to have a care partner come with me?
No, you don't. No, pretty simple. Some people have arranged to go with their siblings or their friend if they both qualify. If you have an HD friend, you can work with the Prevent team to organize the trip together so you guys can both participate. But no, in general, you can go by yourself and get in and get out.
What would be kind of the key information that the study's attempting to receive from my participation?
As I spoke about in that opening question, we're really trying to understand how we can measure changes in this disease without measuring just movements. So the MRI is very important. Providing your CSF fluid by participating in a lumbar puncture spinal tap is incredibly important. So these are the two critical ones, but there's also a lot of assessments that you'll take, and some of them are frustrating and it's a long, tiring day, but this is all incredibly important to help accelerate research and to help just inform the governmental bodies, the pharmaceutical industry, the other academic researchers around the world to better understand HD so we can get treatment sooner.
You mentioned that the study site you went to is in Wisconsin. Are there other sites in the works? And also, how do I reach out to them best if this is something I'm interested in?
Yeah, it's just Madison right now, and that can be fortunately or unfortunately. Unfortunately, if you're far away, you have to go to Madison. Madison's a beautiful town. I'm biased though, I'm from the Midwest. I don't believe they have any plans to open up other sites. There's a lot of work that goes into opening other sites. COVID's prohibited that, obviously. But what I will say is a positive about it just being in Madison. You get the team that really knows this. And I thought the same with University of Iowa for Predict. If you get to go to Iowa, you get to talk to the primary investigators and the people really working on the team that's bringing in all the data. And that's the same with Madison. So yeah, it's just Madison right now. Again, it's a great city, a great team to interact with for the time being. That's the only place you can go. And then if you want to participate, there is a website that the Prevent team has. It's not a very simple URL, so I can't spell it all out for you, but we can probably put it in the chat, and that's the best place to find information. And there is a email, which I'll find real quick, or I'll post it in the comments on Facebook that you can reach out to as an easy contact for the Prevent team.
Great. If I go on this study to Wisconsin, does somebody set up my travel? Do I set up my own travel? How does that work?
Yes, the Prevent team will take care of it. They'll book it for you, so there's no upfront large cost for yourself. I would just recommend when you talk to them, tell them what you're looking for. If you see a flight that you'd like to get on, or you need to be out the door by a certain time or back in the door by a certain time, just make sure they note that when they book your travel. But yeah, it's pretty hands-free for anyone interested.
And lastly, what would you say is kind of the why as to how the importance of participating in studies like this?
Yeah, I can't stress this enough. Participation in studies like Prevent or formerly Predict, or many of these Enroll, or other studies that are part of Enroll like Clarity, they're going to help positively change and accelerate new treatments for the HD community. We still, unfortunately, we know so much more than we did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, but we still have so much more to learn. But I think our ability to learn now is so much faster. And the participation of individuals is key. And a lot of people want to get involved in the HD community and they don't know where to start. Do I hold a fundraiser? Do I go to an event? And I think participating in an observational trial should be everyone's first stop shop. This is giving your time, and it's a direct benefit. And we need more people. I wouldn't be on here talking about Prevent if they had a crazy line out the door of people participating. There still needs to be more people participating in trials. And this is a very easy way to get involved, feel like you're making an impact, and truly making a difference.